Hello, I'm Mohsen Jamal and you watch Afghan News. Afghanistan Selection Commission on Sunday disqualified 9 members of parliament for less than the 62 names thrown out by a special tribunal set up by President Hamid Karzai. Fazl Ahmad Manawi, chief of the Independent Election Commission, said that after looking into the issue, the commission decided that 9 lawmakers who have the least votes from their relevant provinces are not qualified to hold a seat in the lower house of parliament and they will lose their seats. The September 2010 election for the lower house was riddled with fraud and violence. In June, the special tribunal rejected the results for 62 seats, about 1/4 of the 249-member assembly, for irregularities after a recount. Manawi said Sunday 2 of those who will lose their seats are from Herat province and the others represent Paktika, Badakhshan, Baghlan, Samangan, Faryab, Helmand and Zabul provinces. The Taliban attack on the British Consul offices in Kabul has underlined the failure of the Western strategy in Afghanistan. The UK's former special envoy to the country has warned. Sir Gerard Cowper-Cole said claims Afghan forces would be able to take over responsibility for security after 2014 had been exposed as a fantasy. Once international forces pull out, he warned the country would be plunged into a bloody civil war. Gerard, who has been an increasingly outspoken critic of U.S. policy in Afghanistan since leaving the Foreign Office, said the Americans needed to take the lead in finding a settlement. Taliban suicide bombers killed at least 9 people, including a New Zealand Special Forces soldier and 3 Afghan security guards after storming the British Consul's offices. Afghan officials say militants have killed a government prosecutor in the turbulent south of the country. Helmand Province Attorney General Khoshhal Shapa says that 2 gunmen on motorcycles shot the chief prosecutor for Grish district early Sunday while he was leaving his house for work. Muhammad Azam oversaw all prosecutions for the volatile district. The Helmand governor's office said in a statement the attackers fled and that security forces are searching for them. No group has so far claimed responsibility for the attack. Afghan police, backed by army and NATO troops, have killed 6 insurgents and captured 57 other suspects around the country over the last 24 hours, the Interior Ministry said on Sunday. A statement issued by the Interior Ministry added that Afghan National Police, with the assistance of the army, NDAs and coalition forces, launched 11 joint and independent operations over the past 24 hours in Kabul, Kunduz, Faryab, Badakhshan, Kandahar, Helmand and Uruzgan provinces. Numerous light and heavy weapons and ammunition were also seized during the operations, the statement added. Taliban militants have not commented on the issue so far. Sustained automatic gunfire and a series of explosions have rang out in Tripoli, according to reports from the Libyan capital. Blasts and gunfire rocked the city after sunset on Saturday, and witnesses reported fighting in the eastern neighborhoods of Sawq al-Jum'ah, Arada, and Tajora. Musa Ibrahim, a government spokesman, had earlier said an attack on Tripoli by rebels seeking to depose Muammar Gaddafi had been dealt with, adding that pro-regime volunteers had repelled insurgents' attacks in several neighborhoods. Ibrahim dismissed mounting speculation that the regime was on the brink as a media attack, but more gunfire was heard after he spoke on television. In a live audio broadcast aired on state television early on Sunday morning, Gaddafi congratulated his supporters for repelling an attack by rebel raids while accusing French President Nicolas Sarkozy of trying to steal the country's oil, and said that the rebels were bent on the destruction of the Libyan people. President Bashar al-Assad will give an interview to Syrian television on Sunday. State media said as a UN team arrived in Damascus to assess humanitarian needs after 5 months of turmoil. Assad's interview will address the current situation in Syria, the reform process, and implications of the US and Western pressures on Syria politically and economically. Arab states and regional power Turkey have also ratcheted up criticism of Assad after he sent tanks and troops into some of Syria's biggest cities to crush dissent during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. Meanwhile, a UN team arrived in Syria on Saturday to assess humanitarian needs in the country, a UN official has said. The team will assess the humanitarian situation and condition of basic social services and identify initial assistance needs that could be addressed through a rapid response. Two suicide bombs killed at least 14 people in separate attacks in Yemen's volatile south on Sunday morning, including the bombers themselves. Local officials and tribal sources have said the attacks targeted tribesmen who have sided with the army in an effort to flush Islamist militants out of the south, where the government has lost control of some areas as months of protests against President Ali Abdullah Saleh's 33-year rule drag on. Meanwhile, a group of Yemeni politicians have abandoned a newly formed opposition council, exposing divisions in the nation's anti-government movement. The 143-member National Council was formed on Wednesday by two opposition groups in a bid to consolidate their movement and topple President Ali Abdullah Saleh's regime, but on Saturday, 24 of its members announced they were quitting in a dispute over representation. The United States will never default on its dates, Joe Biden, the vice president, said on the final day of an official visit to China, dominated by concerns over Chinese exposure to the ailing U.S. economy. Speaking to students on Sunday during a visit to anniversary in the southwestern city of Jiangsu, Sichuan province, Biden said the U.S. remained the single best bet for investment. Biden said the U.S. would reverse its high debt and low growth and urge China to play a part by buying more American-made goods and services. Beijing and Washington have signed deals worth nearly $1 billion during Biden's trip, according to a U.S. official speaking anonymously. Biden's visit was also aimed at building ties with Xi Jinping, his counterpart, who is slated to become China's top leader next year but remains virtually unknown in U.S. policy circles. Biden will visit Mongolia on Monday before he jets off to Japan. Tehran's chief prosecutor confirmed on Sunday 8-year jail sentences for two Americans arrested more than 2 years ago on spying charges. Prosecutor General Abbas Jafari Dawlatabadi told a news conference that Shane Bauer and Josh Fettel had 20 days to appeal against the verdict, confirming news leaked to Iranian state TV on Saturday. There was still no verdict on Sarah Short, who was arrested with the others on July 31, 2009, near Iran's border with Iraq, where they said they were hiking. Dawlatabadi said the trio in their late 20s and early 30s said they were hiking in the mountains of northern Iraq, and if they crossed the unmarked border into Iran, it was by mistake. Their trial took place behind closed doors, and the evidence against them has not been made public. And that Pakistan's military is ready to help stem a tide of political and ethnic violence in the city of Karachi if the civilian government asked aid to do so, the country's powerful army chief said on Sunday. The comments by General Ashfaq Kayani came amid growing calls by political parties and business groups for the army to step in to stop worsening security situation in the commercial hub of the country, where about 900 people have been killed in violence this year. Kayani expressed grave concern over the security situation in Pakistan's biggest city and said the army was ready if the government called on it to control the situation in Karachi. The army has ruled Pakistan for more than half of its 64 years of independence and is seen as the most efficient institution in the country, where civilian governments are largely perceived as corrupt and ineffective. And that's all for now. Thanks for staying with Afghan News.